In this video, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the RStudio interface. This is what you're going to use to do the assignments using RStudio. And usually what I'll do is I'll give you an R Markdown file to work with. So that's the one today, gettingstarted.rmd. And you get that file off Canvas and download it somewhere on your computer and open it, assuming that you are working on a machine on which RStudio is installed. It should open up in RStudio and your screen should look something like this. So the R Markdown document is in the upper left quadrant. That's called the source pane, and that's just a simple text editor, and that's where we're going to be working. And that's where you'll work. You just edit the document there. So you notice there's some syntax highlighting to show you the questions that you have to do, et cetera, et cetera. And it's pretty self-explanatory. See, you don't really need this video, but this is just to show you how it works. You just go through and everywhere there's a numbered question, you do what it says to do. But I want to show you just how it works and so you can see. Like for example, you want to change your name. Right. You put your name here. Oh, I've got caps lock on. Right. Yeah, you can just edit it just like a regular text file. What's special about R Markdown? R Markdown allows you to execute R commands inside this text file, and that's what code chunks are. So if you notice right here on line 15, that's a code chunk, and 15 through 18 is the code chunk. So 16, you're adding 2 plus 2. 17, you're doing a slightly more complicated arithmetic problem. If you want to execute the code chunk, then what you do is you click that play button there that says run current chunk. And see what happened? It did the arithmetic for you. So you can use R as a calculator like this just by inserting a code chunk. So how do you do that? You go up to this toolbar up here and you go where it says insert R, and you're working in R, but R understands just regular arithmetic expressions. So just how you would do arithmetic, right? And then, so you can go ahead and just do a code chunk and execute things. So that's how you use R as a calculator. When you do this for your assignments, quite often you're going to want to save things in variables. And so you do that using this left arrow operator, which is just a less than sign and a hyphen. So this code chunk right here assigns 54 divided by 6 into the variable called my answer. If I hit play on that, nothing happens in the source pane, but if you look up in the upper right, and you might have to click on the environment tab button to see it, you'll see my answer 9. So where did that come from? It did the arithmetic problem 54 divided by 6 and it put it in the variable called my answer. So the variables that you've saved will be up here, right? So you can go ahead and do that. You can make your variable whatever you want, right? So your variable can be whatever you want. And then it's the less than sign and the hyphen is the assignment statement. And then you can just type in whatever arithmetic problem you want. And hit play. And you notice there's a new variable up there with a new value. All right, so if you want to deal with data, quite often we'll just read the data off a file that's posted somewhere on the internet. And so this line right here is going to read a data file with just a few variables in it. Again, nothing happened here, but notice up here, since that is a whole data frame, it's got 3 different variables: species, temperature, and pulse. If I want to see that in more detail, I can click on the name, crickets, and I see it looks kind of like a spreadsheet, but you can't edit that spreadsheet. It's just there to show you what the data looks like. So there's 2 different types of species, and then it's got temperature and pulse recorded for each species. So now we've got that data into R. The way you refer to data in R, these variables in R, this is a little strange. You have a name of a data frame, right? So whatever your data frame name is, and then you go $, and then the variable name. So in this data frame, the variables are species, temp, pulse, so you reference those as cricket $species, crickets, temperature, etc. So for example, if you wanted to take the average temperature of all the crickets, you just hit play on this this code chunk right here, and av temp is 23.76, right? So if you wanted to take the average pulse, you just change temperature to pulse. So that's the idea of working with variables and data frames. That's about it. We'll do more with plotting later. This is just a very basic plot. So you can see you can do plots in R, and when you hit play on those, they show up as actual graphics. One last thing. So typically, I'm going to have you hand in your completed R Markdown file. So after you do all the things that you're supposed to do in the file, make sure you click on Save, right? And then save your file and then hand it in. Notice there's a little file manager here. If you click on the Files tab down here in the lower right, you'll see the path. So notice where I put this. I put this in my Documents folder in a subfolder called R Markdown Docs, and you can put it wherever you want. Probably it's not good to keep everything in your Downloads folder, so put it somewhere where you'll be able to find it, because that's how you're going to upload it to Canvas. So one last thing, when you finish an R Markdown, or when you're working on an R Markdown file, you can knit the file. So there's the knit icon there, right? And I just click on that. The first time you do this on a new installation, it might ask you to install some things, and it's okay just to give it permission to install what it needs. But notice I now have a nice formatted version of everything that I was just doing there. That's useful because you can print this out, you can open it in a web browser, and then you can copy and paste it into an email, right? So that in any number of scenarios, it's nice to have this nicely formatted output instead of having to just deal with a text file. So that's called knitting. And one thing I want to show you is how I like to customize the behavior of this interface. So I don't like the light theme. So under global options here, what I like to do under appearance is change the theme to something dark. So solarized dark is good. And the other thing I like to do in these settings here is the behavior of R Markdown. Instead of popping up a window, I'm going to say show output preview in viewer pane and save those settings. So now that's the darker theme. And notice instead of having that separate window with the output's down here in the viewer pane. So that's it for now. Hopefully it's a little less mysterious. Once you start working with this, I guarantee it's going to get a little bit more intuitive. So just let me know if you have any questions about it. Go through that file and do what it says and hand in the completed R Markdown file. That's your first assignment.